Hi there.
Hi.
I would just give it a couple of minutes to see if anyone else is going to join this week. I know that Michael's unable to join us. Hopefully, we'll get one or two others.
Okay. Uh, I don't hear anything. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, got a problem there with the microphone. Yeah, so it looks like it's just going to be us this week. So I don't think we can pursue the usual agenda, but if you'd like to spend a few minutes talking about your interests in the roadmap and anything that you have questions about, then now's a good time to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very new to this MLOps project inside Jenkins X, I guess. I'm just trying to like see what people are trying to talk and then eventually maybe contribute sometime. I mean, I have been contributing to Jenkins X and the docs and Terraform stuff for some time now. But yeah, I mean, I need to learn probably more about Kubeflow and stuff like that. So
So yeah, so what we're trying to do here um, is to provide a sort of generic view of what the requirements are from an MLOps perspective. What the challenges really are and what that implies for technical requirements and potential solutions. And then, off the back of that, there are then multiple candidate solution projects that are addressing some or all of the concerns within the roadmap. So the intention is from a Jenkins X perspective that we will align to the roadmap and try to continue to add MLOps capabilities into that platform in line with the requirements that we're building here.
I see.
But then this forum also hosts other parallel projects like Kubeflow, which are already in flight projects with a subset of requirements, and we hope that some of those projects will start to adopt the roadmap as we go forwards and add to their capabilities.
Okay. I'm just too new into these things, so for me, it's pretty much trying to see stuff. But are there any? I mean, are there any tickets in the JX repo which deal with MLOps? I thought I saw some, but did not really. But now that I checked for it, I don't see any.
So there are one or two things outstanding at the moment. The key piece being that we need to work on the versioning of things like builders and build packs, so that it makes it easier for us to support machine learning projects in the longer term. So right now, within Jenkins X, there's a kind of big bang approach to things like quick starts. So if you change a quick start, everyone automatically gets the latest version of the quick start, regardless of which version of the platform they're on.
I see.
So that can lead to the introduction of some surprises, because typically quick starts rely on build pack capabilities, and those build packs contain pipeline implementations that typically change to align with the latest Jenkins X version. So you can end up in a situation at the moment where you're sitting on a particular version of a Jenkins X development environment, and creating projects based on quick starts, and you can be building something in one way on 1 week, and then the following week you try to do the same thing again, and you get a completely different build pipeline because the quick start's been updated and the build pack's been updated, and you're getting a later version. And there's a risk that that version may then expect capabilities from Jenkins X, which are not in the deployed instance of your platform.
Is it in the GitHub thing? Like, can I take a look at what's being done? Then I can maybe try to work on it.
Yeah, so that one is in the enhancements project. You'll see there's a set of issues, and it's one of the issues. And there is some prototype versioning code, I think, in the quick starts, but it wasn't implemented so far as I recall. So I think there's a command option to actually select a version, but it doesn't appear to do anything at the moment. So that might be a place to have a look and see what that allows you to do.
Do you have the like the ticket for that or the issue? Then I can try to take a look now or sometime today. That works.
Let me see if I can find it.
I see that there are about 15 issues open for MLOps.
That's curious. There we go. The Zoom chat window was broken.
Implement version. Four, 6, 7, 1.
Hey, how are you, Terry?
Hello there. You managed to join us on this call. Unfortunately, we're quiet on this one as well this week. Our Australian colleagues are unable to join us.
So are we going to cancel the meeting or?
Well, we're rather than pursuing the normal agenda, we're just having a bit of a free for all in terms of answering questions and generally exploring. So yeah, feel free to have a chat about what your interests are and how you'd like to get involved in what we're doing, and ask me anything you like about the project and what we're trying to put in place.
Yeah. So I'll introduce myself really briefly. My name is Almog. Nice to meet you. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Very, very techy. I used to be a member of a Kubernetes team, like in the GitHub maintainer. And right now, I really find, like the world of ML and MLOps very, very interesting. And I'm looking, how to help this community grow and maybe how to create some innovation in the area. So right now I'm just about, contributing, because when you give, you almost always get something back from the community. So that's my agenda.
Okay, so let me explain a little bit about the context of where we are. So we've set this up as a special interest group within the Continuous Delivery Foundation, because there are a number of active projects within the CDF that are all related to CI/CD and pipeline activities. So the hope is that by setting out a clear picture of what the challenges are in this space, it will give a focus to others who are working in this area doing specific implementations, and help to draw people together towards a shared vision for the capabilities that we need.
Do you also hope to create some standards, like to standardize the different solutions?
So I think this is one of those areas where there may be some emergent standards as we go along. So, for example, Tecton is becoming a clear leader in terms of a pipeline technology, and a number of the other projects are realigning to use Tecton as a base layer for managing pipelines. I think to an extent it's a little early to define standards right now at a technology level, because we're still at a very early stage of maturity in terms of everyone understanding what the challenges are and having a clear view of the problems that they're solving. So the idea certainly this year is to just get the roadmap pulled together so that we've got a communication document that we can say, look, here's a broad picture of what the actual challenges are, and then that becomes a focus for then driving some of the technical activities. I think the thing that's probably most important to understand is that MLOps currently encompasses two very different groups of people. who see the world very differently. So the machine learning side of this is typically being driven by data science activities. So you're looking at people often sort of fresh out of university with a mathematics degree.
Yeah, so they
who are
have
strong.
less engineering vision. How? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's in the machine learning space, there's a lot of strong algorithmic knowledge, but a big blind spot in terms of software asset management and building production ready products. And that one's been quite strange in many ways because the whole subject area has popped up almost as an independent entity separate from the rest of software technology. And so what we're seeing in general is lots of really good work being done at an experimental level, but then almost a complete failure to get anything productized because the gap between getting it working on your laptop and getting it working as a product is a huge step to take.
It's it's remind me the days that you used to log into the FTP server and modify the files. Like they are not like a good working habits right now in the industry in everything that's regarding to ML. And I really like your initiative because it's pushed the industry into more professionalized working other than experimenting. Because experimenting, that's something you do in the university in the lab, but in the real world, you need to have a working standards.
Yeah, and I think this is doubly important for AI because typically the types of problems that you're building AI products to solve are going to be decision-making products rather than decision support products. And therefore you're actually betting the farm on the output of this piece of software. And so the standards that will be expected of these products will actually be considerably higher than we expect from our conventional software products. And yet the techniques and best practices are not established to that level yet. And so we risk another AI winter because we're not able to build commercial products to the standard that's necessary to actually meet the customer demand. So the more that we can mentor and educate the data science group and then support them with the tooling that they need to get their work built to the relevant quality so it can be deployed, managed and owned, the more we'll accelerate AI in general as a practice. So the roadmap is, if you like, the requirements gathering piece, and at this stage we're focusing mostly on the generic requirements. We will take a look at the current state of the art later in the document, so we'll start to spell out some of the solutions that exist to date and what the challenges are with them. But in parallel with that, you'll find that there are other teams also working on early implementations. So with my other hat on, I lead the MLOps capability within Jenkins X. So on that project, we're basically trying to align to the roadmap and build a CI/CD platform that will implement the requirements that we're setting out in the roadmap. And you'll find that there's a first release of that available now. So there is a soft release of some early capabilities within Jenkins X. but there's still a lot of work to be done there to cover off all the problems that we can see as challenges in the roadmap.
Cool. So I think right now that you guys have, we guys, so we have a partnership with some organization like Jenkins and Tecton and Kubeflow. What about the, you know, because there are also like, what's their name? MLflow and, you know, data, oh, forgot their name, this company.
Yeah, so some of those projects sit within the Linux Foundation rather than within the CDF, and we are having crossover meetings with their ML SIG. So I'm hoping as the roadmap matures, we'll be able to join those groups up and start to align that further. It's one of those areas where we have to do a fair amount of catching up to just fully document the scope of the issues involved, and then we can start to use that to communicate with people and say, look, here's the bigger picture. Let's start to work towards interoperability and aligning these things, and agreeing who wants to work on which bits of solving these challenges, and how we can bring all this together into a fairly standardized way of working.
Cool. So maybe
we also have to think about the fact that what we see as the machine learning environment today is quite a transient window, and things are going to be changing a lot very quickly. So the architectural vision is, today we're looking at machine learning in the cloud and saying, well, okay, we do all of our training in the cloud and we do most of our inferencing in the cloud because the resources are there and they're cheap. But actually that only works for certain subsets of problems, because the reality is that you want to do your inferencing on real world data.
Yeah,
and typically it's very high volumes of data, and you just can't move it into the cloud fast enough to process it. So we expect that most of ML is going to get pushed out, so the inferencing is happening at the edge.
Yeah.
And the semiconductor roadmap is currently focusing on effectively inference per watt as a metric, because we need to be reducing the power cost of inferencing to negligible levels, so that we can push that intelligence out into the network, and so you're going to be deploying your models probably into silicon in tiny devices that are distributed in their billions across the edge of the network.
Yeah. So that's also bears some challenges.
Yeah, so the problem is going to be really interesting, because it's not going to be the simple thing of, oh, let's just make a model in Python and then stick it in the cloud. It's going to be, oh, let's make a model in some abstraction layer and then turn that into silicon and run it through a foundry and then ship the devices all over the world. And
yeah. So I have a really interesting conversation with a friend today. He's also very techy, and I said maybe in the future the gap between MLOps and DevOps will be bridged, and it will be the same again. And from what you're saying, it's probably not going to happen, because the differentiation will grow, because the ML world will have more unique challenges than the regular DevOps.
No, not so much. I think we're already a long way on the path to to normalize machine learning assets as part of a DevOps methodology. So the intention for the Jenkins X product is to treat machine learning assets as just another technology asset within a DevOps pipeline environment. But I think what's going to happen is that our view of DevOps is going to have to extend out of the cloud world into the sort of edge device model that
So it's
that
like
we're
growing
expecting to
the
see that.
scope. Yeah. So DevOps
Yeah.
will be a bigger scope than it is today. Interesting.
So the real thing to think about here is that there was that cheesy phrase a few years about the network is the computer, but that is now truly being implemented as the new default. So instead of thinking about what infrastructure am I deploying onto in a data center, what we have to think about now is how do I build and deploy distributed applications that are spread across multiple devices across a wide area network, where those devices can be anything from a cloud server down through a mobile device to a tiny little grain of sand chip that's being cemented into a building.
It's like a little bit going back because, a few years ago, most of the software was deployed on the edge devices, and then it switched to the cloud. And now you're saying because we need a low latency, maybe instead of deploying edge servers, like edge clouding, we need to go a little bit back because this way, that's the only way it can be fast. Interesting.
So think about it in terms of the responsiveness and latency involved in the system. So if what you're doing is making a call on somebody's loan application, then you can run that in the cloud, and if it takes 5 minutes or an hour to decide, nobody really cares.
But if
you're trying to make a decision whether
autonomous car,
yeah. So you go through the middle ground of sort of on traffic management and autonomous vehicles, and am I going to run this person over or not? Which is actually a mid-level process call, and then you get into super sensitive, highly real-time things like process control in factories, things like that, where you may have to be operating at a nanosecond level in terms of your decision making, and so the less time you have to make the decision, the closer you have to be to the sensors that you're making the decision based on, because we've still got this speed of light problem.
What do you think in terms of, because I think that the edge deployment, it will happen, but I'm not sure if it will happen in the next 1-2 years from now. It will take time, and I think
so we're looking at the if you look at the RDS roadmap, which is a 15-year horizon, then most of the focus of that roadmap at the moment is on building the enabling technologies to allow us to start to deploy this stuff in 5 to 10 years time. But a big chunk of this is already here. I mean, 5G is the first enabling technology for edge devices operating at speed. So with the 5G rollout, you'll be able to deploy the autonomous traffic management stuff and things like that. 6G will get us to digital twin levels of data, so you'll be able to do an interim step where you're gathering the data back centrally, inferencing on a model of the thing that you're actually interacting with, and then papering over the cracks in the difference between the real state and the model state when you get back out to the edge. So, 5G's here and being deployed. 6G is actually ahead of schedule, so will be available for deployment in a couple of years' time. We're actually moving quite rapidly towards a number of these endpoints now.
Interesting. Have you guys investigated the cybersecurity aspects for the near future?
So I mean, obviously there's quite a lot of work going on in this area. One of the fundamental challenges, and this is something that I'm involved in, is the problem that where we're heading is effectively splitting out the ownership of the computing capability, the ownership of the data, and the ownership of the IP in the models that need to consume the data and consume the processing capability. So the challenge that we face going forwards is how do we have the commercial arrangements to allow us to train a piece of IP and deploy it in a location where it can be executed and trusted to run against a particular set of data, when all of these things are owned by different individuals and managed independently from a commercial perspective. So there's an inversion of authority problem here and a distributed trust problem, which is actually fundamental to a lot of this network being able to work in the future.
And what about the development of models, like the workflow of collecting data, training on the cloud? I can't put my finger, but I feel like there are a lot of challenges over there that nobody really. It's too early for companies to think about them, but they exist.
Yeah. So there are a number of known issues, and we're trying to capture some of them in the roadmap. Typically, if you're working with, say, let's look at a chemical process control scenario, you can easily today cover your entire process line in sensors that give you lots and lots of valuable data about what's actually happening within that chemical process line. But the situation is that the factory that contains the line is owned by one entity, and they're using the line to produce product, which is their intellectual property. But each component on the line will be a piece of equipment that's potentially manufactured by a different vendor and intrinsically holds its own IP. And so you've got a problem that if you want to train a model to optimize the line, you need to extract a lot of data out of each process step in the line. But that data also reveals potentially some of the inherent IP in the piece of equipment that's performing that role on the line. So the vendor of the equipment might not want you to have access to the data because it reveals what they're doing inside the equipment, but you might need the data in order to optimize your end-to-end process line to optimize your own IP.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, you've got to execute all of this stuff. So you've got to actually be able to push code back into the system and have it modify the state of the equipment at particular points on the line. So you've got to then also have a trust relationship to be able to execute code effectively inside somebody else's IP stack. So we're facing an inversion of architectures from a security, privacy, confidentiality, intellectual property perspective, which is probably a bigger problem than actually solving the AI and machine learning one.
Yeah. It's also, I think it's also a legal problem that the industry should figure out.
Yeah.
Interesting. So maybe I'll tell you a little bit about how can I help, you know, so except of, you know, I can help also in the technical stuff, but I think that my skill set are that I'm really good with communities and people. I opened just a few days ago 3 meetups, MLOps Tel Aviv, MLOps San Francisco, and MLOps New York. And you know, because we are in the Corona time, we can actually, it's easier because you can just create a Zoom meetup. And I think maybe I'll create some meetup, you know, combining all of these groups. And maybe we can start, you know, talking with the community. However, I think that it should be more, you know, less visionary, because I think we are talking here, you know, like more vision and what we need to do, but maybe more like what are the solutions today and what are the challenges and how to gap them. I think that's maybe can help a lot of to this.
And that's explicitly what the roadmap is about. Yeah. It's about saying, you know, here's what is here today. Here's what we expect to be coming over the next 5 to 10 years. And here's a view of, you know, what the current state is versus where we need to be. Yeah. And therefore you can see where the gaps are and where there are commercial opportunities to be had in investing in building product in that area, or where there are societal benefits in investing in building open source to solve those problems.
So I think for me at least, because that's what I'm doing right now full time. You know, I'm researching, investigate, and so I'm investing a lot of time about this stuff, and I don't mind, you know, putting the logo over there, and you know, it's win-win situation, and help the community this way. If we're gonna, you know, use this meetup for the group goals, maybe we need to think about what we want to achieve from this meetup that will benefit the group. So maybe I'll chat with you about it, you know, offline on Slack, and try to, maybe we want to ask the community some questions. Maybe we want some presentation that talks about the stuff we want. So that's about that. And the second thing is, feel free to nudge me, you know, if you want something to be done. Don't sometimes, you know, I just ignore stuff because I want them to be unread so I can handle them later. So just feel free to nudge me. I'm volunteering myself, so it's always good to have someone, you know, doing the boring stuff for you. So I'm okay with that.
No problem. Well, and likewise, if you're interested in joining any of the implementation projects, then you know there are plenty of people who will be pitching you on helping out on their projects. You're certainly more than welcome to come and play in the Jenkins X space if you're interested. You know, likewise, there are a lot of other projects under the CDF banner that are all looking for people to muscle in and move them forwards.
Probably what I'm planning to do is to find some project that I think interests me, you know, personally, and I can somehow pivot it to some, you know, sometime I will need money, so I need to start my startup soon. So I'll try to find how can I combine my contribution to the community in a way that I can build a company with it, because that's my job. And by the way, what do you do? What do you work, if I can ask?
Yeah, so I support teams doing exactly that sort of stuff. So I help people who are trying to commercialize technology projects.
Interesting. So you are like a consultant right now?
Well, I do a certain amount of consultancy, and get involved in the occasional startup, and do a lot of open source work as well. So
cool. Interesting. So if I can help you in the business side and have clients for you or something, I'll try to do that.
Yeah, well, we're all in the business of trying to help each other in this space.
That's the whole idea. I really believe in this wrongly equation that's 1 + 1 = 3. You know, because if you combine two people, it can be more than two.
Yeah, so I think that whole idea of collaboration, generating excess capability is the kind of the history of our species and the history of technology itself. You know, so yeah, we have to keep that moving forwards. All right. Well, I think we're probably best to close this one down early today, given that we don't have a large attendance this week.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is make sure that I stay in touch with you, and
Do you have any action items I can help? Like right now.
So
from my experience, if we start working, it works. If we won't, who knows?
Our focus at the moment is to populate the roadmap document. Cool. I want to get that one finalized in the next couple of months and published, so that we can have a baseline to work from. So feel free to have a look through that, and any issues that you see, or any gaps that you think you can fill, or anything you think we've missed, feel free to contribute on that. And you can edit the document and send me a PR if you like, or you can just message me some changes and I'll incorporate them in the next update.
Okay, so I'm adding it to my to-do list. Go through in detail about on the roadmap and try to think what I can contribute there. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thanks. And I really enjoyed this call, so I'm happy that I joined here. We had one-on-one, which is amazing. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we try and keep these fairly informal, and so this is an opportunity for people to get together and actually dive into some of the challenges in this space. And then typically what we'll do is we'll have a chat about a particular challenge in one of these sessions, and then we'll go away and write that up and incorporate it into the document. So it's for some people it's an educational process as well, and we're just gradually building an asset which we can then share with the rest of the community.
Cool. Thank you. That's really exciting, and it was a pleasure to meet you.
All right. Well, thank you, and thanks, Ankit, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Bye-bye.